now it's our time in the studio with Karolina Kurowa. I welcome Freedom viewers, and let's get straight to the important news. One person was killed and 4 others were injured as a result of a Russian strike on the Dnipropetrovsk region. Rescuers pulled 2 of the injured out from under the rubble. According to the head of the Dnipropetrovsk Regional Military Administration, Alexander Hanja, 4 communities came under attack. In the Starlink district, 2 private homes were destroyed and another 6 were damaged. In the Nikopol district, the Russians shelled with artillery and used FPV drones. 3 private homes, an outbuilding, and a gas pipeline were hit. 2 people were killed and 5 were wounded as a result of Russian shelling in the Zaporizhzhia region. The Russian army attacked Volynyansk. According to the head of the Regional Military Administration, Ivan Fedorov, a private home was destroyed and a married couple was killed, a 49-year-old man and a 48-year-old woman. Among the wounded in Zaporizhzhia is a 14-year-old boy. Private homes were damaged there. In total, over the past day, the Russians carried out more than 1,000 strikes on 32 settlements in the region. They used aircraft, drones, multiple rocket launchers, and artillery for the attack. 12,000 subscribers are without power. In Zaporizhzhia, the Russian army also struck a shelter for stray dogs. A strike drone exploded on its territory. A volunteer was injured. More than 10 animals were killed and several dozen were wounded. Watch the report for more on the aftermath of the attack.
Dead and wounded dogs, shattered enclosures. These shots were taken by shelter volunteers in the first minutes after the Russian attack.
A lot of dogs died. It hit us. A lot of dogs were killed. Many were injured.
The animal rescue volunteers recall. At first, they heard the sound of an approaching drone. And when they realized the drone was heading their way, they managed to take cover in the basement with a few of the animals.
The rumble was loud. In an explosion, everything started collapsing. What else could we do? Alexander came running. He was putting out the fire.
Shrapnel pierced the metal shelter door and wounded a female volunteer. It was very difficult to open the basement door. The injured gave each other first aid even before the medics arrived.
Explosion, fire extinguisher. I run over here, and the door's twisted like cigarette paper, battered by shrapnel. I wrenched the door open so the girls could get out, because inside it was...
Natalia lives next door to the shelter. When she heard the explosion, she immediately rushed to help save the animals. She says she was shocked by what she saw on the grounds.
What did you see? Total devastation. Dead dogs, wounded dogs, chaos. The trees are stripped bare, everything is smashed, tears.
Unfortunately, the dogs didn't stand a chance. Natalia shows the damaged metal food bowls that are completely riddled with shrapnel.
This is from the enclosure where they were hit, where the shell landed nearby. This is what's happening.
Animals wounded as a result of the Russian attack are already being transported to city veterinary clinics for treatment. Right now, volunteers are clearing debris and rebuilding the enclosures. Before the strike, there were more than 500 dogs and cats in this shelter. Many of them had been evacuated by volunteers from the combat zone. Ole Pritikin, Boris Yakovenko from Zaporizhzhia for Freedom TV channel.
Due to Russian attacks, new power outages have been reported in 5 regions of Ukraine, in Donetsk, Zaporizhzhia, Kharkiv, Kirovograd, and Dnipropetrovsk. Everywhere that safety conditions allow, emergency repair work has already begun, according to Ukrenergo. Regional crews have also already started repairs. Because of the difficult situation in the power system. In some regions, emergency power outages are still ongoing. In the rest, there's a power limitation plan for industry and scheduled hourly blackouts for the population. The Netherlands will provide Ukraine with additional transformers and allocate 23 million euros to support the country's relevant infrastructure. This was reported by the head of the Ukrainian Ministry of Energy, Denis Megel. He had a phone conversation with the Dutch Minister for Foreign Trade and Development Cooperation, Auke de Vries. The parties agreed on the supply of transformers of various capacities. The Dutch minister also assured further support for the Ukrainian energy sector. Estonia and Ukraine discussed the development of cooperation in the fields of cybersecurity and defense technologies, as well as tools to strengthen them, and the 20th package of sanctions against the Russian Federation. The Estonian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Margus Tsahkna, arrived in Kyiv for a visit. His Ukrainian counterpart, Andriy Sybiha, informed the Estonian foreign minister about the difficult situation in Ukraine's energy sector following Russian strikes. And he thanked Tallinn for its ongoing support, as well as for providing a new energy aid package. In turn, Margus Tsokna stated that the Kremlin's aggression is becoming increasingly pronounced not only against Ukraine, but against all of Europe.
We have a blacklist of former Russian army personnel, participants in the aggression. They will never be able to obtain a Schengen visa. These are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of rapists, criminals, and war criminals. Not only should they not be fighting against Ukraine, they should not have the opportunity to visit Europe at all. And it seems to me, at the level of foreign ministers, we will get support and implement this resolution.
Europe must speak with one voice.
Europeans must speak in unison, because Putin, of course, is trying, among other things, to divide Europe. That is his intention. And naturally, scattered opinions will lead to nothing good. Europe must have a unified, strong position if we are talking about the path to peace.
Also, the Estonian foreign minister opened in Kyiv, a point of invincibility. There, Ukrainians will be able to receive psychological support and warm up. According to Margus Tsokna, this is important now during prolonged power and heating outages. As the Estonian minister reported, the center helps to maintain the spirit of Ukrainians and serves as a ray of light in the surrounding darkness. Estonia will close night traffic at 2 border crossings with Russia for 3 months. This was announced by Prime Minister Kristen Michael. The restrictions will take effect on February 24th. The decision was made due to constant provocations from Russia. During the day, the border crossings will operate for 12 hours. Estonian Minister of Internal Affairs Igor Taro stated that the actions of Russian border guards constantly require additional resources and increased attention.
Since Russia sometimes behaves irrationally at the border, we need to free up resources for more effective border security. Starting February 24th, we will reduce the operating hours of border checkpoints for 3 months and close them at night so that we can closely monitor the situation in other sections of the border. By reducing the nighttime working hours of border checkpoints, we will be able to deploy our staff more efficiently where they are needed most. Kristen Michael, Prime Minister of Estonia, from a statement by Estonian National Broadcasting.
In the past day, 152 combat engagements occurred at the front, Ukraine's General Staff reports. In the Kostiantinovka direction, Russian forces launched 18 attacks, while in the Pokrovsk direction they attempted 31 assaults. In the Huliaipol, Orhikov, Oleksandrivka, and Dnipropetrovsk directions, the enemy carried out airstrikes and also tried to advance, but did not succeed. Russian forces are amassing manpower and heavy equipment to storm Minorhad in the Donetsk region. This was reported by the East Grouping of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Nevertheless, Ukrainian units continue to hold back the Russian onslaught in the Pokrovsk-Myrnograd agglomeration area. The enemy is suffering significant losses, note the defenders of Ukraine, who controlled the northern part of Pokrovsky. In Myrnograd, Ukrainian soldiers are also holding certain defensive lines. Fire is being directed at Russian troop concentrations and logistics. Over the past day, Ukraine's defense forces eliminated 720 Russian occupiers. The total losses of the Russian army since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine have already exceeded 1,244,000 personnel. Also, in just one day, 6 tanks, 11 armored vehicles, and about 40 artillery systems were destroyed. 2 enemy air defense systems and more than 160 vehicles were also destroyed. The 225th Separate Assault Regiment of the Armed Forces of Ukraine is effectively holding back the Russian army's advance in the Huliapola direction in Zaporizhzhia region. This unit is equipped with American Bradley tracked armored vehicles, which have proven their effectiveness, both in suppressing enemy positions and as transport for landing troops. Our correspondent, Alexei Branovsky, saw firsthand how the Bradleys handle their assigned tasks.
The armor of the American Bradley infantry fighting vehicle can withstand enemy return fire and attacks from strike drones. This kind of equipment is in service with the 225th Separate Assault Regiment in the Zaporizhzhia region.
It is used to repel and suppress attacks. So, if the enemy tries to advance with their armored group, we immediately move out end. Turn the area into scorched earth. The Bradley has a very high rate of fire and a very large blast radius for its explosives. When it leaves, nothing's left behind.
The armored vehicle is armed with a powerful 25mm cannon, a versatile 7.62 caliber machine gun, and a specialized array of anti-tank and bunker-busting missiles.
I really like that it carries much more ammo in this compartment, up to 230 high explosive rounds, and up to 70 high explosive fragmentation and armor-piercing rounds. So basically, those are all.
Previously, the vehicle proved itself well in the deserts of Iraq and Afghanistan. Now it's performing excellently even during the Ukrainian winter freezes.
You really have to warm it up every single day, especially when it's getting really cold outside, and make sure to move it around so it doesn't freeze solid to the ground.
The vehicle has a crew of 3. In addition, there's space in the back for 6 paratroopers.
The turret. On the right side of the turret, we have the commander. The vehicle commander is on the right, and the gunner is on the left. The commander has his own joystick to control all the weapons on the Bradley, but at the same time, and a little further over here, we have the driver's controls.
The 225th Regiment is engaged in high-intensity fighting in Zaporizhzhia, not allowing the Russian occupiers to advance deeper into Ukrainian territory. And the Bradley is an invaluable...
Our team serves as a vital assistant in this entire operation. We are always standing by and getting ready. If any piece of equipment happens to break down, we make sure to fix it right away, carefully reload our gear, and thoroughly prepare ourselves for the very next intense combat mission ahead.
The situation in the Huliaipol direction of Zaporizhzhia remains tense. According to the General Staff of Ukraine, the Russians attempt dozens of attacks on the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces here every day. Enemy aircraft are dropping bombs on populated areas in the region. However, despite this, all attempts by Russian forces to advance towards Zaporizhzhia are being stopped by the defense forces.
Ever since we first arrived here at this location, in just a few short days, we have managed to successfully stabilize the volatile situation in our sector. That is to say, we have effectively halted the enemy's advance and are now slowly trying to push them back out of the territory.
I'm making coffee for our guests. It's really tasty, from the dugout.
Despite the difficult weather conditions, the fighting spirit of the Ukrainian defenders remains high.
To stand up and fight for your family, for the future of your children, so they can study in their own schools, to live on a land that is truly free.
Alexei Baranovsky from Zaporizhzhia region for Freedom TV channel.
An assassination attempt was made in Moscow on Lieutenant General, Deputy Chief of the Main Intelligence Directorate of the Russian Defense Ministry, Vladimir Alexeyev. An unknown assailant shot him several times in the back and then fled the scene, according to Russian media. The attack took place in a house on Volokolomsk Highway, where the Russian Army general lives. He is currently in the intensive care unit at one of the capital's hospitals. I should also add that Alexeyev is under sanctions from several countries. In addition, he participated in the Russian military operation in Syria. He was also named as one of the overseers of the Wagner PMC.
The attempted assassination of the Russian general, deputy head of the GRU in Moscow, looks like a provocation by Russian special services. In this way, the Kremlin may be pursuing 2 goals. First, Alexeyev was one of the overseers of the Wagner Group, and he was closely associated with Prigozhin. Second, to accuse Ukraine of disrupting the negotiation process and of terrorism, as Russian propaganda constantly does. The Kremlin is looking for excuses before the U.S. to escalate and continue terror against Ukraine. Alexander Musienko, serviceman of the Ukrainian Defense Forces, military analyst on Telegram.
After the unverified Starlink terminals were disconnected in Ukraine, Russian troops faced serious communication problems and began searching for alternative means of communication. Requests for help for the occupiers started appearing on pro-Russian channels. for communication equipment. In particular, one public group announced a fundraiser of 8.5 million rubles to purchase radio bridges and radio stations. The Starlink blockade has made it much harder to manage units on almost all fronts. In Russia, the loss of satellite communication is being called a critical problem for the Russian army on the front lines. Let me remind you, in Ukraine, unverified Starlink satellite communication terminals have been blocked. Devices included on the whitelist are working, while all others have been blocked. Agents of the partisan movement, TES, also report that the Starlink terminal used by the electronic warfare army has almost completely stopped working. Russian signal operators can't get things running, and attempts to set up backup channels have failed. At the same time, the standard electronic warfare equipment is even jamming their own radios. Because of this, the command of the occupying forces is effectively paralyzed, and the lack of coordination is leading to heavy losses.
On the Zaporizhzhia front, from Zaporizhzhia, a typical case of friendly fire occurred due to a complete breakdown in communications. Units, having no information about each other, opened fire on their own troops. As a result, an assault group of 12 people was completely wiped out by their own forces. The Russian army's dependence on civilian technologies has worked against it. As soon as communication is lost, command falls apart, and the troops start destroying themselves. From a statement by the partisan movement Atesh.